Okay, so I've got my icon in Illustrator, and just to make things easier, I've saved each icon in a separate file. So I'm saving this one as icon one. And then once I have that done, I can decide whether I want to have all of the units on one layer or whether I'm going to want to animate the lines and the squares separately. I'm going to keep this as one layer, but even if I've created it in multiple layers in Illustrator, I can import it as one layer in Flash. So I'm going to go over to Flash, and I'm going to go to a new document. Make sure it's 1920 by 1080 by 20 frames. Say OK. And then in this new document, I'm going to go to File, Import, Import to Library. And now I'm going to locate my icon 1 and say Open, and then a dialog box will come up that'll give me some choices. Down here at the bottom it says Flash Layers or Single Flash Layer. I'm going to choose Single Flash Layer. That'll take my layered Illustrator file and convert it to one layer. So that will then put my icon in the library, and by default it's going to be a graphic symbol. So it's already come in as a symbol, which I can see by the fact that converting it to a symbol is not available. And so by default, in the beginning I'm in scene 1, but if I double click on my icon, it then opens up a sub timeline here. So the scene 1 has its own timeline, and the icon as what I'm going to make an animated symbol has its own icon. So this is where I do the animation, and eventually you'll bring in as many icons as you have, and you'll animate each of them separately. So let's say I just want this to shrink and enlarge and then shrink again. I'm going to hold down Option and drag this little keyframe out, and then I'm going to hold down Option and drag it out again. Actually, let me go back and do that a different way. I'm going to go to, this will be 20 is 1 second, 40 is 2 seconds. I'm going to come over to approximately 40 and control click and say insert keyframe. Okay. And after I do that, I'm going to just clear that keyframe. So now I've got my symbol here. And then I'm going to take this section and convert it to a motion tween. And say yes, it's going to put a symbol within the symbol. Don't worry too much about that. And then just double check that this is turned blue. And now I'm going to come to the middle here, and I'm just going to enlarge this a little bit. That'll put a keyframe in there. Then I'm going to come to the end and shrink it down, and then come to, see if I scroll back and forth, see it's enlarging. Then I'm going to come back to the beginning and shrink it down again. Okay, now I press enter to play it, and there's my animation. Now let's go back to scene 1. As you can see, scene 1 has nothing in it. If I come back over to library, I can see I've got my icon, and then I have the symbol that it made when I was making the motion tween. So don't get confused. So this is what the graphic symbol looks like. If I take that and I pull that over onto the timeline, I've now got my animation here. But since I only have one keyframe on the main timeline, it's not going to play. So I'm going to come over here. I would do whatever was the longest that you did an animation in the library. So I did 40 frames, so I'm going to add a keyframe here. So that's all I have to do. I don't have to animate here because this is just going to play it. So if I press enter, it plays it. Then if I have an additional symbol, I can add a new layer here, and I'll put that additional symbol on this next layer. So let me come back over to library, do file import, import to library, and let me get my circle symbol. Okay, single flash layer, and there's my circle. So I'll double click on that, So now I can see there's scene 1, and here is the circle. So I'm going to do something similar with this. I'll come out to 40. You can choose whatever timing you want. Insert a keyframe. Then clear that keyframe. It's got to be an easier way to do that, but that's how I'm used to doing it. Then I'm going to go to Motion Tween and say yes, so you can see it made a little sub symbol. So I'm just going to keep track of my graphic symbols here. And on this one, I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to open up Properties. And first of all, let me just make a little change. Let me shrink this one down, get a keyframe in there, and then enlarge it. So let me just do the opposite with this. Okay, so let's say that was all I wanted to do. You come over to Library, go back to Scene 1, and drag the circle icon out here. Notice I have the other layer. I could lock the first layer so that they don't interfere here. So now I would be able to play them both at the same time. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do in this video. So again, I press enter. And then once I've done all my icons, if I'm ready to export this, I'm going to go to File, Export Video. And I want to choose the location where I'm going to be putting it. Make sure it goes into the right place. And export. Then I'll be able to go and find that file, upload it to Vimeo, and then embed it in Canvas.